It was an ordinary morning when Sarah Williams, an inspiring teacher and community leader, found herself on the side of the road, facing flashing blue lights in her rearview mirror. But as she rolled down her window, she knew that this was not just another traffic stop. Today, she would face a moment that would redefine everything she believed about justice, equality, and courage. Sarah was a teacher whose dedication to her students and passion for equality shaped her role in the community. Growing up in a small, predominantly white town, Sarah had always felt the weight of being different. She had experienced moments of prejudice, both subtle and overt, but her response was always to rise above, to stay steady, and to advocate for her students. Sarah had always believed in fostering a better world, one student at a time. Her classroom was a safe haven where every student, regardless of their background, was respected and encouraged to express themselves. Her tireless work earned her respect among her colleagues and students, who admired her as a role model. That morning, as Sarah drove to school with a stack of essays in her passenger seat, she was pulled over by Officer Tom Grant, a veteran cop known for his rigid demeanor. She felt the all-too-familiar twinge of apprehension as the red and blue lights flashed behind her. She knew the routine: hands on the steering wheel, calm voice, respectful compliance. But something about this stop felt different. She had nothing to hide, yet there was a tension in the air that made her grip the steering wheel tighter. Sarah's life had been one of quiet resilience. She was raised by parents who had instilled in her the value of education and the power of words over actions. As an educator, she embraced this philosophy, guiding students through difficult conversations on topics like race, identity, and acceptance. Her ability to turn adversity into lessons was her strength. As she sat in her car, her mind raced through the many times she'd spoken with students about their rights, about standing up respectfully against injustices. Now confronted by an authority figure, she felt those lessons echo in her own mind. Despite her nervousness, Sarah remained calm. She knew her rights and understood the delicate balance between asserting them and provoking anger. She thought of the many students who looked up to her, and she knew this moment could become an example for them too. As Officer Grant approached, Sarah noticed his body language, rigid, with an unmistakable air of authority. "License and registration," he demanded without making eye contact. Sarah handed them over, her voice steady as she responded, "Of course, officer." But as he glanced at her information, his expression changed, eyes narrowing. "Are you aware that you were over the speed limit?" he questioned, though Sarah knew she had been driving carefully. Her brow furrowed slightly, but she maintained her composure. "No, officer, I was going the limit." His tone grew more insistent, and Sarah felt an uneasy sensation build. The conversation turned tense as the officer continued pressing her with questions unrelated to the stop. Sarah could sense he was trying to rattle her, but she met each question with calm resilience, refusing to give him any reason to escalate the situation. The interaction reached a boiling point when Officer Grant asked Sarah to step out of the car. She hesitated, feeling a wave of frustration and vulnerability. She could comply and avoid potential conflict, or she could stand her ground. After a moment's thought, Sarah took a breath, opened her door, and stepped out. "Officer," she began, voice steady, "is there a reason for this? I know my rights, and I am fully cooperating." Her calm challenge visibly unsettled him, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw a flicker of uncertainty cross his face. The officer's aggressive tone faltered as Sarah stood her ground, her gaze unwavering. "I am a teacher," she continued, "a citizen of this community, and I deserve to be treated with the respect you would give anyone else." In that moment, her words seemed to shift the dynamic. After a tense silence, Officer Grant took a step back, visibly reevaluating the situation. Sarah could see the struggle in his eyes as he wrestled with his assumptions and the reality before him. He cleared his throat, eyes downcast, and mumbled, "You're right." It was a small admission, but Sarah felt the weight of its significance. She knew this moment was more than just about her. She was standing up not just for herself, but for everyone who had been in her shoes. As she returned to her car, she glanced back at him. "I hope," she said softly, "that you'll remember this the next time you see someone like me." Her words lingered in the air as she drove off, leaving the officer standing in silence. Sarah reflected on the encounter on her way to school, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away. She knew that, for many, this moment would be one of many injustices they might face. But for her, it became a defining moment, one that would shape her teaching, her community work, and her dedication to justice. In class, she shared a simplified version of her story with her students, speaking to them about courage and resilience. Her students listened, hanging on to her every word, inspired by her strength. Sarah's story spread throughout the school, igniting discussions on fairness, equality, and respect, serving as a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up for oneself.